In just under 3 weeks, voters in Ireland will go to the polls. The Taoiseach, or Prime Minister Simon Harris, has called the general election a few months ahead of schedule. France 24's Siobhán Silke is here to break it down for us. Hi, Siobhán. So, this is a potentially historic election, isn't it?
So it is. The one thing you have to understand about Ireland is it has never had a traditional left-right swing between governments. From the beginning, from day one, 100 years ago, Ireland has gone back and forth between governments led by one of two broadly centrist, centre-right parties, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. So already the outgoing government is historic in that it's the first time these parties are in coalition rather than rivals. Now, how did that happen? That was because of a surge in support for the left-wing party Sinn Féin during the last election. In 2020, Sinn Féin became the second largest party in the Dáil, the Parliament, historic. They became the first left-wing party to lead the opposition, historic. Now, at that time, no matter what happened, no matter their support, they were never going to be able to form a government because they simply didn't run enough candidates. This time, they have government in their sights and they're hoping to make that breakthrough.
So is Sinn Féin poised to win then?
So if we'd been talking a year ago, I would have said yes, no question. However, they have had a roller coaster year. They didn't do particularly well in the European or local elections recently. However, I will say that they also didn't do well in local and European elections before the previous general election and still had a record-breaking result there. However, they're also dealing with a series of controversies and scandals. So this is not a good time for them. It's not good timing for Sinn Féin for this election, which is one of the reasons Taoiseach Simon Harris announced it at this time. The outgoing government is trying to capitalise on that dip in Sinn Féin support. They also want to capitalise on a giveaway budget, which has just been signed off on, so very fresh in the memory. So look, it's going to be a short campaign. Just 3 weeks, parties for 3 weeks to make their case. Is that going to be enough for Sinn Féin to turn things around? You know, we'll see. A little bit like the Irish rugby team, Sinn Féin can kind of have this habit of being the favourites, but just not quite being able to pull it off on the day.
It is indeed a very short campaign period. So what are the main issues for Irish voters?
So housing, without question, is the number one issue. Ireland is mired in an unprecedented housing crisis. I cannot overemphasise how bad it is. Record homelessness, record child homelessness, 4,500 children unhoused. And then there's a lot of hidden homelessness. And then people who are housed are being crippled by rent, which is also then feeding into a cost of living crisis. So as well as that, public services in general, the health service in particular, is really struggling on a number of levels. So Sinn Féin will say that, Ireland has only ever had Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil governments. They're failing on these issues, or their policies are a direct cause of these issues. Sinn Féin says, we have a plan, it's time for a change. Governing parties are going to be saying, it's not the time to rock the boat.
Now, we've seen a groundswell of far-right support across Europe and elsewhere. Is this a factor in the Irish election this time?
So the short answer to that is no, with a caveat. No, Ireland has never had anything approaching a viable far-right party, far-right candidates. There is a however. There are fringe candidates. There have always been fringe candidates who've managed to garner a handful of votes, literally talking about a few dozen votes. What's different now is in the recent local elections, a few of those candidates did break through to win seats. Now, I'm talking about 5 out of almost 1,000 local authority representatives. It's tiny, but it's there and it's unprecedented. I used to be a little bit on my high horse about Ireland not having a far right. I don't think I can be anymore. Immigration may be one of the issues that comes up in the next 3 weeks of campaigning. Certainly those fringe candidates, those extremist candidates, are going to be amping up the rhetoric on that as much as they can. Are any of them going to win a seat in the National Parliament in the Dáil? Look, being aware of the dangers of complacency on this, I would still say the chances of that are very, very minimal. Ireland just in general does not have a taste for the far right. There's something to be said for a nice, boring election between mainstream parties. So, anybody who's felt their blood pressure rising recently because of elections at home and abroad, look to Ireland for a little bit of calm.
Less of an uncertainty there. Then thank you very much, Siobhán. Siobhán Silke, our very own expert on Irish politics.